Hello everyone, and welcome to my Week 3 Power Rankings. I've done the intro enough a few times, you know the drill. Just my opinions on where I think the teams are ranked at this point in time. But a quick preface before we get into the rankings is that I think it's really cool right now. We have a ridiculous amount of teams all clustered in the same spot, and there's no teams who are going winless, which I think is really cool, because it's almost like every team is kind of like dragging all the other teams down, because everyone's just beating each other, and there's that makes power rankings really hard, but it also makes the league really interesting, which I think is really cool. So yeah, I really enjoy the fact that it's such like a crossfire in how everyone's beating each other and nothing seems to even make sense. And it means that pretty much anyone's still equally in playoff contention, which I think is also really cool. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool thing that's going on in the league right now, and just wanted to preface the video by saying that. But we'll get into the rankings now. At number 11, I have D. Winchell, moving down 3 spots. So D. Winchell played Kuda this week, who I had ranked at number 11 last week and lost, and yeah, I just didn't think he prepped very well for this matchup at all. He didn't seem to have a clear win condition on his side to me. Like, it looked like he was trying to win with his arrow, but arrow was never going to win when there's a Floatzel and a Klefki on the enemy team, especially because Enzo brings Thunder Wave Klefki every single week without fail. So it was never going to win, especially against Kuda's Klefkis, because Kuda's Klefkis always have Thunder Wave. So yeah, maybe a bit of scouting his opponent could have gone a long way there. But yeah, he just didn't seem to have a strong way to win this game, or a very thought-out way to do it. And I think the prep just was really lacking. He didn't even have a way to outspeed Nidoqueen and beat it, which was a serious issue, and it made Nidoqueen kind of destroy his team, or Nidoqueen. So yeah, the prep needs to improve, and the play needs to improve, and hopefully he does improve it. And I'd like to see D. Winchell do well this season, and I would really like to see everyone kind of continue this trend of beating each other and having like a really close race and no real teams that are lagging super far behind. I think that's really cool that there's no teams who are really super far behind at the moment. I would really like it if everyone kind of kept pace with each other, but we'll see what happens. But D. Winchell's prep did not impress me, and it has to improve for him to move up. Up next I have Kudo. I don't think Kudo even prepped super well for the matchup against D. Winchell. I think D. Winchell just prepped worse. Kudo's prep wasn't bad by any means, but D. Winchell just wasn't ready for what Kudo brought, and evidently Kudo didn't even have to really do all that much to win the game. But I've now moved D. Winchell to number 11, so Kudo's going to need to get some more substantial wins and impress me a bit more with his performance to actually begin moving up. But it is a win, and so it's a start. So we'll see what happens from there. But yeah, he'll need to impress me against higher level teams if he wants to start really moving up. Next up I have Flair, who beat Jeff. And I think Flair played fine. I think some of his sets were kind of weird, like Curse, Ice Punch, Quagsire was really weird, mono attacking Ice Punch. I guess it ended up kind of working, because Jeff was just being weird and not going into his Venusaur against it to stop it. But I don't think that set was very good, but I guess it ended up working. The Starmie set ended up coming in and being very successful, though. I don't think the Infernape was played very well. I think a Slowbro was a really obvious check, so I think something like a Z Solar Beam set would have been really neat to take that on. But yeah, it wasn't. He played well. He got the win, but I would like to see more consistency from him to keep moving up. Wait, do I have him at +2? Oops, that's a mistake. I think he's at +0. Whoopsies. And I would move him up, but I had to. There's teams below him like Enzo, who I had to move up higher, who impressed me a lot more than Flair did this week. So he did in effect pass D. Winchell. So although he has technically not gained a spot, he did make an impression on me that will last into future weeks, even though he didn't necessarily move up a spot. But he'll need to continue these kind of wins to really start moving up for me. Next up I have Enzo. Enzo played me, and he played very well. I really just underestimated Enzo. He made a lot of doubles, which were very ballsy, but they ended up working for him. And he just played extremely aggressive. I will say that there was something a little overlooked, is that the Blacephalon Inferno Overdrive on the Muck was only a 50% roll, so he had about a 50% chance to lose the game right then and there, and it did go his way. Which, I mean, it's 50%, so it's not, like, by no means can call it hacks, but it was like, the game could have all just gone to shit right there, so it wasn't as clean a win as it could appear to be. Also, that was about it. The end game was really chaotic, and I don't think I really thought it went out as well as I should have. But he did play the end game fairly well. I don't think sacking his Gallade as early on as he did was the correct play, but he did end up winning, and he did play very well. He did very much impress me, and so I'm moving up 2 spots. And if he's able to continue this performance, he'll continue rising. But yeah, for now he's at number 8. Next up I have Hazy Basilisk 47, moving down 2 slots. I forgot to make him 1 and 2. Man, I'm really bad at this. I even did a full check where I went down and changed them all, except I didn't change them all, I guess. So we have 3, 1, and 2, -7s, and then 2. Everyone's got the same differentials. Anyways, yeah, he's moving down 2 slots. He lost to Reggie this week, and I think Reggie's no one to take shame in losing to, which is why I'm not knocking him down super hard. But I don't think he played the game very well. I think he kind of just had a stroke when Scarf Needle King came out. It like leaving Lottie in against it. I mean, it was probably threatening to be Scarf, but it was probably the best play to scout for Scarf at the very minimum, because he was either going to switch out or stay in and Shadow Ball again. So I think Audino was always the play. He was going to switch out if he wasn't Scarf, fearing a Psychic, and if he was Scarf, he was going to stay in Shadow Ball. So I think Audino was always the play there because it covered both options. But he had a stroke and not only left it in, which wasn't a great play on its own right, but then proceeded to bring in Scarf Metagross immediately after it, which didn't make sense to me. And Scarf Metagross was his only way of dealing with Pinsir, and since that went down, he was kind of really screwed at that point. He played a bit too recklessly with the Scarf Metagross, in my opinion, too. He needed to keep that much more healthy and out of quick attack range, and not brought it in on spikes so many times so that he didn't lose to Pinsir. And his Nihilego said, actually, he told me after, was speed boosting, which actually would have completely won the game at any point after the Ferrothorn went down, because the Incineroar got chipped by a Rock Slide. So if the Nihilego managed to pick up a kill at any point, it actually just straight up won the game. So I really would have liked to see him actually just pulled the trigger and actually got Nihilego in. I don't think he played against the Incineroar, especially at the end game, very well either. Just like throwing the Nihilego straight in on it and letting it die. I don't think that was a very good play at all. But especially because it did just win at that point if he was able to get a kill off. But yeah, I think that he didn't play the end game very well. He kind of just had a stroke around the Scarf Nidoking, and so I wasn't super impressed with his play. I think he played the first portion of the game like fairly well, and like until until the Volcanion went down. I think he was playing pretty well. And, like even the turn the Volcanion went down, I think he was still playing okay. And then after that, it went to shit. So yeah, he just, what even is that? Is that my watch? I think that's, dude, I don't even know. Yeah, he just needed to play the end game. and getting better, and he didn't. But like I said, Reggie, he's 1-2, but he did lose to Reggie, and who else did he lose to? Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Classiel. And I think Reggie and Classiel are two of the... He had probably... I think Hazy Basilisk probably had arguably the strongest schedule of anyone up to this point. And because he played Reggie, Tepig, and Classiel, who I rate all very highly. And managed to beat Tepig, who I do rank really highly. So... I think even though his differential is very low relative to everyone else, it's largely due to his schedule. But yeah, I don't even think his prep was too bad for this game. I think it was just he needed to play it better. He not throw out 3 different mons to Scarf Nidoking for no reason, and yeah, not sack his win condition. Yeah, that's enough there. Number 6, I have Jeff, who lost to Flair. Reggie was knocking Jeff pretty hard for prepping with the fat balance, but I really don't think it was too bad in this scenario. But only in this scenario because I was going to pull up the thingy, but I actually don't feel like it. Only because in this scenario he had very strong walls against what for the majority at least of what Flair could throw at him. Like, he throws an Excadrill at him, Jeff's got a Slowbro, he's got a Lando T, he's got a Sableye with like Prankster Willow, he throws a Infernape at him, he's got a Slowbro, he throws a Garchomp at him, he's got a Togekiss, he's got a Slowbro. Like, I think it was really, he definitely could justify bringing that fat just because defensively, typing wise, he had mons that just really took on what Flair could throw at him very well, besides the Galvantula, which I think was really under prepped for. And I do believe he had a Scarf Togekiss, which was able to revenge the Galvantula, but he went hard into it instead of sacking first, which I think was a serious misplay. It essentially lost him the game because not only did he have to take $1 billion on Venusaur, but then he also didn't have anything faster than the Starmie at that point and just straight up lost to it. So I think that was just going hard into Togekiss instead of sacking first was just an incredible misplay that really completely lost him the game. But other than that, unlike Reggie, I don't think his prep was too bad this week, but I think the play wasn't great, especially going hard into Togekiss. That really just put him out of the game. There was really no way for him to come back at that point. Landorus T actually had a fantastic matchup, though. I think it was Rock Polish, or he said he was trying to set up with it anyways, and that makes the most sense to me. But it was Z-Fly Earthquake Lando put in a shit ton of work against Flair's team, and it appeared Flair didn't really have anything ready for it. So that definitely could have won. I guess it just didn't end up getting the chance, but it definitely could have. But yeah, I think just going hard into the Togekiss lost him the game, and there was really not much he could do about it after that point. Because at that point, Galvantula was going to continue. It was going to continue doing serious damage, and nothing outran the Starmie, and the Starmie just kind of killed everything. So just not very impressive play in general, and that specific play was really bad and lost in the game. So he did impress me, especially week 2, not so much week 1, but he did get the win both weeks, and he is 2-1. So we'll see what happens from here. He could fall if he continues making poor plays like that, but if he corrects the ship, I think he could also stabilize and continue to rise again. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, I have Classiel, who's actually moved up 2 spots to number 5 this week, and it's kind of a weird scenario, and I don't want this to be confused with him being rewarded for losing, but rather I just thought that Jeff and his Basilisk played not great this week, and so I decided to move them both down. I think they played worse than Classiel. So these three were kind of like almost grouped together, and I dropped. It was more just Jeff 9111 and his Basilisk dropping below Classiel than him rising above them, if that makes any sense. But Classiel played PETA this week and lost decently hard. Yeah, I have PETA ranked number 1 still, so I mean it's not like this is a shameful loss to take. But I think Classiel really should have won this game just based on matchup. I'll get to that later with PETA, but Classiel really should have won this game. But he played incredibly poorly around the Gudra. He just kind of... It almost seemed as if he was trying to make the Gudra do as little damage as possible and refused to bite the bullet and actually deal with it. And by letting Gudra, trying to minimize the damage Gudra was doing, he kind of just let it overwhelm him and completely destroy him and end up giving it 6 kills. So he just played very poorly around the Gudra. He made a lot of... He really needed to take advantage of the fact that PETA was in a scenario where if his Gudra died, he lost the game. So PETA was never going to risk the Gudra. So he really needed to take advantage of that and play aggressively, knowing that PETA was never going to risk that, and make aggressive plays knowing that PETA was never going to risk that, because it's obviously not the play to ever risk that. He did a few times, and a lot of times he made the plays that like didn't matter. I don't know if he just like didn't realize it, but like superpowering into the Gudra, which is a good play, except Vaporeon had wished the turn before, so it didn't matter. So and like in that scenario, a double would have served him much better into something that could actually deal with Gudra, but he just didn't seem to have... He didn't play very well around the Gudra. He possibly could have prepped a bit better for it, but he just needed to play a bit more aggressively and kind of like toxic it, put it on a timer, make more doubles into things that threaten it out to make sure it never got to come in. But he really needed to do something to keep that Gudra from just coming in over and over and over again and killing him, especially because his walls, because I do believe it was a max or a no speed Gudra, so his Venusaur and his Melodic both outsped it. So he really could have taken advantage of that, but he didn't. I don't know PETA sets for sure, so PETA, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it did look like a no speed Gudra to me, and Gudra and Melodic would have both outrun it, or Venusaur and Melodic would have both outrun it. So yeah, I think he really should have taken advantage of that, or the fact that Venusaur walled Gudra so long as it wasn't under rain through Synthesis, because he had to Draco to 2-hit KO, but you obviously lose your special attack if you Draco. Or even like Melodic Toxicking it and then just recover stalling it because it's faster while it dies of Toxic and Thunder can't kill it. Or maybe even make a play in a Crook on one of those plays. Something. He needed to put it on a timer or do something about it, but he kind of just didn't. So yeah, and the Gudra ended up completely dismantling him. So yeah, that was just kind of it. Next up I have Jolty. So Jolty this week lost to Tepig, and like I've said a lot for my some other people in the rankings, losing to Tepig is nothing at all to be shamed about. And I think he had a very good game plan going in. Having what's his face, Zeraora looked like a pretty nice win condition that game. He told me after that it was Steelium Z for the Sylveon. I think he might have been better off with something like Expert Bell or Life Orb, just to get that extra little bit of oomph to kill everything else. But maybe he was a bit more worried about the Sylveon. I didn't do the prepping, so I wasn't super involved with the matchup, so I don't know how much of a problem Sylveon was for his team. But it ended up being spec Sylveon, so we didn't even need the Steelian. But had he been a boosting item, he would have actually killed the Steelix and likely won the game at that point, depending on the Lopunny set and whether it had priority. I was very surprised at the fact that Tepig didn't bring a Scarfer to deal with the Zeraora, but he didn't. And then what's its face? I did like the fact that he had Super Fang on the Crobat, which made this nice sort of mid-ground where Crobat would force out most of Tepig's fast stuff, and then Super Fang his fat stuff that was coming into the Crobat. Unfortunately for him, it didn't end up chipping down the Steelix enough because it had the Chople Berry. I think the Zygarde also could have been utilized a bit better this game. It just didn't end up doing all that much for him. I think it definitely could have. I don't think he played particularly well against the Spec Sylveon, where he like brought in the Gastrodon on it. I don't know if that was a prediction on a double on him switching out or what, but he like didn't go into the Crobat initially and let his Groot to take a lot of damage. I don't think it ended up mattering in the end game, but that was just seemed like a weird play that didn't gain him much. But he didn't play bad. He didn't prep bad. So I'm keeping him at number 4. And although is he losing 2 spots? Did he actually lose 2 spots? Was he? I don't know. I'd have to look at my rankings and see if that's actually right if he lost 2 spots. But I feel like I had him at number 3 last week. If I didn't, I don't know. We'll see in a sec. I'll probably go over it when I see the other numbers. So at number 3 I have Reggie. Reggie didn't impress me week number 1. I went over that a lot. How I had some serious problems with his prep, but week since then he's really impressed me. Against Hazy Basilisk and Glacial, he prepped and played very well. I really could not point out a single misplay or misprep. I'm maybe letting Pharaoh go down because it would have been nice for the Nihilego, but there's no way for him to know Hazy Basilisk set, but I don't know, it's possible that he but the spikes did end up benefiting him a lot that he did get up, so I don't know. But I really liked his Incineroar set week 3. I didn't actually watch, now that I think about it, I didn't watch his week 4 battle against Tepig very hard. I don't actually even remember what happened too much in it, but I do know that it was somewhat close, and playing Tepig close is good. It was good in itself, but he impressed me enough from his 2 wins so far in what should have been 3, even though his first win was what his should have been win still wasn't impressive in my opinion. Since then he has very much impressed me, and he'd be number 3 regardless of how that 4th game was played. But yeah, that's all I have to say. He's been prepping very well and playing very well, and impressing me, so I have him at number 3. Next up I have Tepig in number 2. Tepig's just been playing really solid, much like last season, just managing to get the wins he needs to. His only loss so far has been to that Lucario sweep, which he obviously did not play optimally, but was also a bit, I wouldn't say lucky, but almost an uncharacteristic choke of a game he should have had. So I don't think you can count it too much against him. But in the past other 3 weeks, he's played very well, prepped very well. I think it was a bit questionable for him to not have brought a Scarfer against Jolty, especially when Zeraora was such a big threat to his team. especially because if it ended up being a damage boosting item, Zarya Helix probably died and he probably lost in a spot. So definitely cutting it a bit close, but he did get the win, and he has been playing well. So I'll keep him at number 2. I really just don't have a reason to move him down. So yeah, finally at number 1 I have PETA, and although he's at number 1, I feel Tepig's really catching him. I almost tempted to move him over PETA now, but I'm not going to quite yet. But if PETA and Tepig play, I would actually have to look at the matchup because Rain is super matchup based. But I would just on skill alone, I definitely favor Tepig. I really did not like his prep this week against Classiel. It was just weird. He brought like all of his tier 5s. He brought Swampertless Rain. Like the Rain was just to hit Thunders. It is actually pretty weird. He brought a Vikavolt but didn't bring Coco. It's just a lot of weird stuff going on, and like, maybe there's some reasoning behind it that I'm not seeing, but I didn't see a reason not to bring a Coco, especially like Z Bravebird Coco put in a lot of work this game. Yeah, dude, I just really was not a fan of PETA's prep. It just seemed really weird and gimmicky. I really didn't like the Cinccino bring either. Cinccino is something that works nicely against kind of faster teams because it hits hard and it's pretty fast. But he had some serious fat. Like Jirachi and Venusaur are taking tail steps pretty well, especially my low tick, which was Flame Orb. That was probably taking it just fine. So yeah, just really was not a fan in general of PETA's prep. I did like the Sap Super Gudra, but that was kind of just an expected bring. If the opponent has a Bulu and you have a grass immunity, you probably bring it. And PETA did play the game very well. There was one turn where he actually risked his Vaporeon and left it in on a Bulu, predicting an over prediction, or predicting a prediction. But like, I don't think that's ever the play. You don't risk that. It wasn't his Gudra though, so it wasn't as critical, but it was his only way to heal the Gudra, and he really needed to heal the Gudra to continue to win that game. So I think he prepped very poorly outside of his Gudra and Vaporeon, and he literally used 2 mons to win the game. So I guess it worked, but I think had Classiel played better and just like taking care of the Gudra in general, the rest of PETA's team was just going to get destroyed because it was not built better than Classiel's team, and Classiel's team was going to smother and suffocate it because he just didn't have the breaking power, really, any good mons. Besides the Gudra, but the Gudra and the Vaporeon did get it done, but I really didn't like his prep. His play was fine. I didn't like his prep, but he did get the win, so I can't move him down. So yeah, that's really it on PETA. So yeah, that's my week 3 rankings. Sorry for all the cutting around. I got interrupted a lot of times while recording this, but hopefully it wasn't too bad, and I'll see you next week.